First of all, a man who shared the ring with Errol Spence back in September of 2019 at what was then called Staples Center in Los Angeles. What an epic battle that was, and then had an absolute barn burn in November of 2021 in Las Vegas at Michelob Ultra Arena. Privileged to be joined alongside by the former welterweight champion of the world, Showtime Shawn Porter. Shawn, how excited are you for July 29th?
I'm excited. I'm at church last night and they're talking about it at church. So
They're talking about it at church.
This is a big one, man. This is the biggest, and I'm excited about it.
My question is more so geared towards the fighters. Shawn and Kel, I'm sure you both studied immensely for your fights with Spence and Crawford, respectively. Was there anything that caught you by surprise with either fighter, like whether it was like the speed, the strength, the angles, or the punch variety that you saw from both fighters?
I'll go ahead and go first. And I'm definitely gonna paint this picture the correct way. When I fought Errol, going into that fight, I said I need everything to beat this guy. I can't leave anything at the gym. I can't leave anything at home. I had to take everything in order to beat this guy. And I think about 5 rounds went by, and just a simple move, a pullback counter, and I counter punched his jab with my jab, and he shook his head and he said something, and I said, "Oh, I got you." And what I realized in that moment was he's not as smart, not as intellectually sound as I thought he was going to be, and that seemed to kind of carry through the entire fight. I felt like I was a step ahead of Errol the entire fight, all the way up until that knockdown moment. And that was surprising to me. I thought that Errol was going to be more intelligent in the ring, and I thought that simple pullback counter move. It's one thing to get hit with it, like things happen. But for him to acknowledge it and show how frustrated he was in that moment, and then I started to see other moments of frustration as well. When we talked about this fight years ago, I said, well, Terence the smarter fighter, he's going to win this fight. But I think that ever since this accident that Errol has sustained, and I think that having to come back from that and having to just grow up and get rid of a lot of things in his life, I think that he's a smarter fighter now than he was when we fought in 2019. And I don't think that there's going to be any surprises for either guy in the ring. There weren't any surprises for me when I fought Terence. Everything that came to me was everything that I thought was coming and expected the whole 9. And I think that one little stain, for the sake of words, that Errol had back in the day, 2019, when we fought, I believe that stain is gone too. So I don't think either guy is going to be surprised at all. I think the calculated pressure from Errol has to be something that he sustains the entire night, that he continues to put on. The pressure and the body punching. And I think the two things that Breadman said earlier, number one, if you're Terence Crawford, you got to get to Errol's body. You got to make him uncomfortable. Do things to him that he's not used to having been done to him. Going to the body is certainly one of them. And then the other thing that Breadman said, in between Errol Spence's punches, Errol has a really tight defense, keeps his hands up, he keeps his hands at home. If he's not punching, his hands are up. And that's something you can't say about a lot of fighters. And so with a guy like that, you have to find openings. Those openings are usually there when that punch is being released. And so, like Breadman said, punch when he's punching. And then right there to what Kel said, be accurate, be that sharpshooter. And again, I mean, we're talking about a great fight because we're not saying nothing that either of these guys can't do. And so I think that's why this is such a great fight. I mean, you're talking about punching in between the gloves. All you guys on the call, you guys can attest that is it's hard to find the timing. It's hard to find the distance. It's hard to be confident to do it. Terence can do that. And then we're talking about all night pressure. We've seen Errol do that, so it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, this is a question for Kel and Shawn. If you were both to fight both Spence and Crawford again, what would you have done differently to win the fights? Do you look back? I think there was areas where you guys could have exploited them more, or what would you say to that?
I'm gonna go ahead and go first. My guy called me. We talked maybe like a week after the fight, and we just kind of, just talking about the fight and all this and that. And the call got quiet. I mean, still quiet. And it's like, I'm still like, a little hurt that I didn't get the win. It's dead quiet. And all of a sudden he goes, man, I wish you had went to the body more. And I was like, man, me too, man. That's the only thing I wish I had done. You got to get to Errol's body. That's the one thing I wish I had done more was go to his body. And then with Terence, it was a moment, and that moment I wish had never come for me. So
the way I look at it is, I think that it's more important for Errol to get a better start than it is for Terence. I think I'm gonna tell you why. I don't have a pick on this fight yet. I think it's a 50-50 fight. But it's one thing that I've noticed is that Terence can be in cruise control and not be going like all the way 100% full speed ahead and still get results. With the way Errol's style is, he's more of a grinder. He's not as a dynamic of a sharpshooter where he has to kind of like go a little bit harder to get results. So here's what I think about that. If Errol is going 100% full blast ahead, throwing 70, 80 punches around, and Terence is about, real smooth, picking his shots, not really throwing much hard. Because you watch Terence, he throws a lot of touch shots, and then he hits you with the same shot. He'll hit you with a shot at about 60% power, and then he'll come back with the same shot. It'll be like 100% power. And you're like, God damn, where'd that come from? Because he'll just be touching you with stuff. Terence doesn't allow himself to be carried really fast. So if Errol is going 100 miles an hour and Terence is about 60, 70% real smooth and seeing everything, and let's say after 4 to 6 rounds, they're even or Terence is up and Errol's going 100 miles an hour, Errol's in trouble. You know what I mean? So I think that it's better if Errol gets a faster start than with Terence, because Terence doesn't need a really good start to win the fight. Both guys are late round sharks, but Errol's style is more physically demanding. He doesn't have that laid back picking kind of style. So if he's down early and he's fighting 100 miles an hour, I feel like that he'll be in more trouble because Terence has that gear where he could just switch it on and just turn it up. So if he's even with Errol and he's only fighting at about 60, 70% energy output, and then he turns it up, Earl will have a big problem. So that's the one thing that I've seen in both fighters is that Errol kind of goes harder, where Terence is kind of more smoother and he picks his spot and his energy levels goes up and down depending on what's going on in the fight. If you watch the Porter fight, I told Shawn this, I thought Shawn was doing great. I thought he was outboxing Terence for large spots, to be honest. And then somebody said to Terence outside the ring, was like, yo, you losing. He was like, what? And then he just turned it up to another level. It was weird. I'm not saying Errol doesn't have that gear. I'm not saying that. But Earl's gear is more like, where Terence is kind of like, oh, I'm right here. Okay, let's see if you can go up here. So I think that is a little bit more important for Errol to get a better start from what I've observed from both guys.
All right, perfect. Thank you both, Virgil and Steven. And thank you for the question, Kendrick. Oh, sorry, Shawn, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to piggyback off of what Breadman just said, because if Terence is able to fight against Errol Spence like that, be able to be that comfortable and manage his energy the way that it's just been described by Breadman there, we got to start talking about Terence Crawford in the same breath with Manny Pacquiao, in the same breath with Andre Ward, in the same breath as Floyd Mayweather, because those are 3 fighters who have been great in every single fight that they've had in their own way and have been able to do it without anybody being able to disrupt who they are. Obviously, we've seen some disruption in Manny's career, but Manny's still virtually amazing at a lot of points in his career. My thing with this fight is, and it's something that you cannot measure. You can't measure another fighter's energy. You can't measure another fighter's mentality through the fight. That was another difference that I saw in my fight with Terence. Terence never got uncomfortable, and Terence never showed me that he that there was anything unsettling within his heart and his mind throughout the fight. And I pride myself on making fighters uncomfortable. Never once did I see Terence uncomfortable. When I went back and just analyzed the fight in my head and things like that, I didn't apply the kind of pressure that Errol is going to apply. I didn't apply that straight in your face mentality that I usually fought with. And I thought that may have been a reason why I didn't see Terence get uncomfortable. If Terence does not get uncomfortable against Errol Spence Jr., he's going to beat Errol Spence Jr. And we will have to talk about Terence Crawford the same way we talk about Andre Ward, the same way we talk about Floyd Mayweather, and in the same way we've talked about Mr. Manny Pacquiao as well.